Hi guys, welcome back. Today I thought we'd have a look at some mushroom wood spirit style men that I've been coming up with lately. So it's taking on the initial concept of mushroom carving, which is a very beginner thing, and then adding on the idea of a wood spirit, someone, a little face, a little bit of character to it, just to give it a little bit of whimsical delight there. So I've got a few of them here. And I'll show you them before we get started, but all you're going to need to really go with is a detail knife. This one's a flex cap. You could use gouges if you wanted to. The only other thing, just to finish it up, a little bit of sandpaper and anything you wanted to finish it with, whether it's a stain or a paint, anything like that. We'll talk through possible options near the end. And I am just going to use a piece of sycamore here. This has been dried out for a while. You can use green wood, you can use dry wood. It's completely up to you. But as I carve, I'll talk about the differences. Let's get started. Okay, so here's some of the ones that I've already done and already finished. As you can see, there's lots of different ways that you can do them. You can have, such as this guy, quite a bulbous top to him. You can have slightly thinner top, sort of more of a, what you might consider more of a fantasy style mushroom with the very tip there, much more like something you'd expect, say, a witch or a sorcerer to be using. Quite long tops. And then for expressions, there's all sorts of things. You can have yourself a nice happy little expression there, which is something we're going to try and do on this one. You can have a nice little mustache. I find beards a bit too much for the area, but give it a go. You know, it's always worth a shot. You could go for something with a bit more of a sort of slightly confused look to him. And again, with the finishing, like I said a minute ago, we can finish them in any which way you fancy. You can leave them really plain and just as they are, let the wood do the talking. You can do a little bit of staining like this. This is just a normal antiquing wash that goes over the top. You just paint it all on and then wipe it off with a cloth, and all of the wash work gets right into the recesses and brings out those lovely little dark edges there. You could then highlight it afterwards, which is what I did with this one. So it's exactly the same wash as this, but then afterwards I went over it with just some titanium white acrylic paint and dry brushed it over the top, which is just a little dab of the paint, almost wiping most of it back off again, so it's nice and almost dry on your brush, and then just bashing it all over the place, and it just really brings those recesses out and makes them pop on the top. You can paint them in very sort of earthy tones, like I've done with this guy. This is just the wood has some Danish oil, I think it was, on it, and then you've got the same sort of effect there. I've just painted a burnt umber, I think it was, on the mustache and the hat so that it matches, and then dry brushed again over the top there of this one. Or you can go full colours and nice red, the traditional death cap mushroom there, the fairy mushrooms, however you want to call them. You can put in little eyeballs that you wanted. So this guy was very much, the idea of him was quite asleep. And then this guy is just more of a sort of squinting into the sunlight as such, a little confused. Or you can go for the very basic, which by far is the easier way of doing it, and can be very much the most effective in some ways, especially on the smaller carvings. And again, you can do these any size you fancy. So let's get started. Again, you can do them on any sized wood. This is about a similar size to my thumb, really, a little bit bigger than my thumb. And yeah, of course, don't forget your gloves. Mine are pretty tattered now. I've had to replace thumbs and fingers on them, but you know, as long as they protect you, that's the best part. One thing I would recommend through personal experience is get a stick at least double what you're using, because if you're working with something small in your hands, you're going to go wrong. You're going to cut in and you're going to go right through these gloves. As I've said many times on my videos before, these gloves stop this, they won't stop stabbing, they won't stop slicing. So just be aware that they're not foolproof. They just take the majority of the cases out of your hands and out of A&E. So yeah, right. So first of all, you want to decide how big you want it to be. So I'm going to go to from about here to about here, and I'll probably take the top off because it's a bit rough. It's been out for too long. There's a little bit of fluff and stuff forming on the end. And I'm just going to take the bark off here. And remember as well, you want to give yourself a little bit of space at the bottom because you're going to be curving in like this guy here. You're going to be curving in and then flat. And then when you finish the carving, you just saw it off. So I'm going to take that there and I'm going to debark it because we don't need any of the bark. Again, like I said, I'm using sycamore, which is a bit tough once it's dry, but for this kind of smaller carving, it's not going to be the end of the world. It shouldn't be too bad. As long as you've got a good sharp knife, that'll make the job all that bit easier as well there. Okay, and now you want to look at size-wise. So you've debarked it, you've got your edges there. I think I'm going to aim for the bottom to be around here. I'll make a mark all the way around on there in my blue pencil, and then the top aiming for around about there. Okay, so that's giving me plenty of leeway room to go. Now the cap, on average, you want to really divide this into thirds, so you're looking at there and about there. Okay, and that will give you a bit of an idea of how much space you'll need to put the face in. So this will be the edge of my cap here, the cap on the mushroom, and I'm going to go around there like that. Okay, and then all you want to do now is pop in a stop cut all the way. So you're going straight down like that, put some pressure on with your thumb, and then up to that cut. Okay, once you've got that stop cut in, it's much easier to whittle it down and down and down so that you can get it as thin as you want. And it really can be as thin as you want. You can have a nice fat neck to your mushroom. You can have a very thin neck. Just be aware, the thinner you go, the more brittle it will become. So, and obviously, it always happens to the best of us. You think, I can go a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And the next thing you realise, you've turned it into a puzzle and you've got multiple pieces. Okay, so now that I've gone and done that, stop cut all the way around, it's so much easier to just go straight up. You don't have to be quite so careful because the wood will naturally stop you where you need to go. All right. And you see I'm just going around and around and around, taking that little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. It doesn't have to be a straight line on these sorts of things either. In fact, sometimes a little bit of a wobbly line might help. I realise as I'm cutting here, I've got some parts that are going up, some parts that are coming back down again, and that's fine. It doesn't matter. That's what makes each single one of these a little bit more unique than the rest. Okay, now I would recommend not going too far at this stage, because then when you're taking this part off, if you have that too thin and you're cutting into this, you're putting pressure on that end and you're going to knock it off. So I'm going to stop about here and I'm going to start bringing it in to that point. So I'm taking lots off here. Now, this is what I mean about this scabby end to this bit here. It's just a bit bashed around, a bit rotten. It's an old piece of wood that I found banging around at the bottom of my carving box. So I thought, well, let's just use that. Never waste. I mean, if I was doing this outside away from you guys with a video, I might be tempted to just put the axe to the end of this and axe it out. Oops, sorry, not the camera. I might be tempted to just axe this down. Saves on time. Much quicker, much easier. But hey, because you guys are here, I'm going to show how patient I can be. a bit of a knot on the end there, which is causing a little trouble, but nothing we can't handle. Anything that's a bit too tough, just treat it like a feather stick. Just go down to that end, and eventually you're going to cut through. You see, like I'm doing there, just like a feather stick. If you're doing a bit of bushcraft, I'm just taking little by little by little off. Good thing about carving dry wood, it doesn't have to make a lovely sound when you cut it. You don't get that from green wood so much. And I'm not being too neat here. I am pulling the ends off because I am going to just neaten it up with my knife in a minute. Apologise about all the shadows on the camera as well. For the life of me, I cannot figure out what I've done wrong with all of my lighting today, but it just doesn't want to work. It doesn't want to play ball for me. See what I mean about going around slowly? Right now this is right on the edge of disappearing, so I'm expecting any cut now. Ah, there you go, see? Much easier. Now we're looking like a mushroom. So now, rather than have a hard point on that, I'm now just going to come around and soften it up. And the reason being, the tinier the end, the more likely it is to crack and break. And you don't really need it. You really don't. I mean, if you wanted to have a sharp point on the end, go for it. I mean, hey, maybe you could turn it into little cheese fork or something if you really wanted to, you know, a little cube of cheese, jab it on the end, whatever you fancy. Don't know why it would be cheese. Just always remember as a kid, certainly over here in the UK, birthday parties, you'd always have a little bit of pineapple and a bit of cheese on a stick. Well, this would have made one hell of a stick. Okay, so all I'm doing now is I'm taking it closer and closer to the edge here, but not right up to it. And that is because you risk getting under the fibres of the wood. And I don't want to risk that, because then you're going to take off the whole edge of what you've just been carving and you're going to have to reshape it again. So what we'll do in a minute is we'll just take that from the other side to round it down. Okay, and I'm curling my knife in so I'm getting that little edge there. Just gives it a little bit more character rather than a straight pointed or normal cone as such, an even cone. Just gives it a little bit more pizzazz. You see that there? It's a very flat plane at the moment, but that's where a little bit of tweaking with the knife in a minute and some sanding, that will take it down. And it's up to you. Again, you can make this into a flat plane carving, so leave all of those edges on, and that will be perfect for things like this one. Whoops, throwing it around. Perfect for things like this one, which will catch the paint then and give you that cool little look, almost like a sort of granity type look, if that's even a word. But yeah, great for that sort of thing. Or you can just soften it up, it's up to you. So now I'm going back to this part now, and I'm going to go round, thinning it up to make this mushroom. And again, similar sort of motion really to what I was doing on the cap. I'm sweeping it up. I'm going to try and give myself as much wood to carve with there, but I want it nice and thin up here. And you can always come back to this in a minute. If you're not quite sure, you can go and do the face and then come back to it. It's up to you. There's no right or wrong way of doing it. It's your carving. Do it whichever way makes you feel comfortable. But personally, I like to get the general shape done first before we do any of the too fine details. Okay. I think I'm happy with that. Right, now, like I was saying about the cap, all I'm going to do now is at the other way. So instead of going this way, I'm going to come in at that side, that way now, I'm just going to gently make sure your knife is sharp when you're doing this, because I'm cutting across the grain, and if it's not sharp it will just tear it and it will be all fluffy and horrible. But I'm just going around it. That tapers off the ends of the grain and it just rounds it, tucks it in, makes it a little bit neater. And then if you wanted to, you can go around and take that edge off. Like I've said before, if you keep making little flat cuts, you'll end up with a curve. It's a bit of a weird thing to say, but you will. Okay. When you're trying to, if you're trying to get rid of that flat plane look and you're determined to do it without sandpaper, such as if you're carving on spoons or something like that, which sandpaper isn't the best thing for, then that's the way to do it really. Just keep going at those corners and the edges, take them off each time, and it will get thinner and thinner and thinner until you can barely see a thing. Just like I'm doing now, I'm taking the tiniest amount off. Right, now I'm going to put in my bottom. Now I think from here I might just go a little bit below that now actually, and I'm going to do the same as I did up here. Stop cutting and come down to that part, and that's going to give you your finish point for the face, where it must finish by. So I'm going around again, down, and I'm not making these very big cuts because, again, like I said, you want as much wood as you can to play with. This is only really for now just a bit of a marker, just to give you where it's going to finish. So that's your mushroom. Looks very much like a mushroom. That's a great start. So now for the face. So go around, see your carving from all angles. Just taking a bit off there. Right. Have a look around your carving for all angles and see where you think a face might fit for the type of face you're thinking of. Now the face I'm going to go for is, like I said, something similar to this. I'm going to take the beard off because I've not done one of these for you guys yet, where there's no beard or anything. Just a simple, really simple, nice, easy face. So because that doesn't need too many layers, such as mustache or anything like that, I'm going to go for more of the flatter side. So I'm thinking this side, because I've got a little bit more leeway than this side. This one's a bit flat here. Got a little bit more to play with there, but it is the wider of the sections. So let's get our pencil and mark out. So like I've said on other videos before, I'm not going to go for a flat line for the eye line. I'm going to go about just over halfway where the eyes are, and I'm going to go slightly down and slightly down. Okay. We're not going to put an eyebrow in this. It's super simple. This is going to be nice and easy for any beginners, combining those first couple of things that every beginner tends to go for. And we are going to just do that. Okay. Then, but about, well, really where that mark is there, about, yeah, what should we say? I don't know, a third, between a third and a half, whatever that may be. That's where your bottom of your nose is going to sit. Okay. Don't know if you can see that. This light is playing up again, but that's where the nose is going to sit. And then we're just going to, from there, pull out 2 cheekbone lines, or whatever you want to call them, the bit that folds when you smile. And then that's where the smile will be. Okay. Just under the philtrum there. All right. If anyone's not sure what a philtrum is, it's that little ridgy bit up between your nose and your lip. So let's put those eyes in first. Again, stop cut, nice and easy, straight down and cutting up into it. Okay. This will naturally help you to form the nose. Again, I'm going to go in a bit more. Much better. Same on the other side. Up to that point and coming in. Being careful at this point not to slip and cut into your hands. That's why a stop cut is really helpful here. Get that stop in first, don't just start carving. But again, have control. When I'm doing this, I've got my other thumb on the knife, so I've got essentially two hands on the knife here, so I'm not going to go into myself. I'm holding it back. All right. So that's a couple of eyes in there. We'll neaten them up in a minute. In fact, I can't stand that little fluffy bit there. And then I'm going to go down to where the nose is. There. And cut up with a shallow cut. Same on the other side. Okay. And then flat where the nose is, coming in. Doesn't matter how far you come in there, we've got plenty to play with. So don't worry. Okay. So you can see now we've got the beginning of the nose and the two eyes. All right. Okay, so I'm going to take the cheeks down. Always take it slow. I could feel that wasn't cutting for some reason there, whether it was my angle, whether it was, I don't know, but take it slow, otherwise things go wrong. Okay. All right. Now for the nose, I'm going to take those corners off. One there, one there, because no one has a triangle nose. And then again, just round the bottom. Now this is small carving, mind. So it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to look sort of like it's meant to. I'm going to bring the nose down at this point, so it's under the eye line. Can you see that? So if I give you side view there, you can hopefully see with this silly light. Try and move the light in a bit. It's curving in, that top of the nose there, it's curving in underneath the brow. That's what you want. Okay. We're not going for super realism, we're going for fun. We're going for expression. Okay, I'm going to give those eyes a bit more depth because I'm not going to put eyeballs in. I want the shadow to do the talking on this guy. Okay. So as I'm adding the depth, I'm also taking the edge off of the brow a bit. So it's not quite so angular then. Okay. Same on the other side. And then taking that brow down a tiny bit. Okay, so still keeping the depth on it. I'm trying to adjust this light. Still keeping the depth, but again, you're opening up that eye a bit more. Okay, you're giving it a little bit more expression, a little bit more happiness. And you don't want it to be too stern a looking brow because this guy's going to be a happy fella. He's happy to be out. It's spring. The weather is lovely. He's happy to be out. Okay. And it's fine just to play. Remember, if anything goes wrong with your carving, it doesn't matter. It's your carving. You're not expecting to sell them. This is a fun hobby. Okay, so we've taken out some of our lines again, so I'm going to show you what we're going to do now. So we've got the nose, we've got the cheeks, and again, this is the roughing out phase. So this isn't the final perfect looking lovely pretty we're done. This is just getting those basic features in. Okay, so from the corner of each nose, I'm going to bring 2 lines out like that. Okay, and those are the jowls, the cheekbones. All right, let's find this guy again. So you see him there? So that's where we're going. All right, those 2 lines there. So we're going to go again, stop cutting, swizzle it around, and we're going in. Don't forget to put a little bit there to stop you pulling the nose off. Same again, right on the line, straight down. All right, see that there? Bring that in. You don't want that philtrum to be too pronounced. All right, and now just take the edge off of that stop cut, that original stop cut, to make it look more like a cheek. Same on this side. Again, remember to keep with the wood grain on this sort of section, because you're going in straight lines that does match the grain. Now at the moment he's looking a bit like a sad little fella. Let's try and move this around a little bit. Okay, he's looking a bit sad, but we're going to change that. We are going to change that. So just take that off at the angle again, because quickest way of doing it is going to be get it out of our eye. We can't see it, we can't see the sadness. Okay, now we can add in the happy smile. So just about there. Okay, that's going to be his happy little smile. And this guy's a little bit more cheeky than the other guy I did, so that's fine, that's cool. Each one is different. Okay, now all you're doing, you could do this with a V-gouge if you wanted to, but it's going to be you need yourself a really small gouge or veiner to get into these little gaps. So I find it just as easy. I think we'll give this guy a bit of a bigger bottom lip. So instead of coming in at that angle, coming in more at this angle, that's going to give him a bit more of a flat look. Bottom lip, larger bottom lip, a bit more like an older boy. He's been smoking tobacco all of his life. This is his first time back this year for spring, but he's been coming here for 70 odd years. That's the backstory I'm going with. All right. There. He's looking good, I like him. Okay. Okay, so whereas this guy I've put a little bit of a dimple under his lip. Now, I'm not sure I'm going to with this guy. I want him to look more like an old man. So, like an older gentleman as such. So now I'm just going to put in something to do with the brows. So we're going to create the illusion of eyebrows, because don't fancy putting in eyebrows on such a small carving. It's not easy to do, and I want this to be nice and simple and easy. So all we're going to do now is, using our knife, we're going to do that sweep again, that slight curve as you cut. Sometimes it's easier as you're doing it to slice as you cut. So just see how your knife goes. But I'm going to go in just above the eyebrow there, and then I'm just going to bring it in like that. So down, sweeping round, and that just helps to bring out the illusion of the eyebrow. Okay. This is where, as well, not going too deep on your mushroom to start with also is a benefit, because you're going to bring that right up to the cap See the brow? All right. And now to make it look more like a brow and not just some sort of weird lump, just going to put a little V cut in just above the bridge of the nose so that it matches the bridge of the nose's depth. Okay. Just like that, and then bring them up as well. Okay. You see that guy? He's looking really cool. I wish this light would do a bit better, a bit nicer and easier for you. Okay. Okay, so now it's just a matter of giving it a bit of a clean up. I'm just going to grab my brush, give my knife a quick strop to sharpen it up, and I'll show you what I'm doing with that. Okay, so I've stropped my knife a little bit, got the sharpness back in, got my brush so I can brush out any of the fuzzies in there. And he's looking good, he's looking good. Okay, so I've got a slight cut line here still where my knife went in a bit too far for the nose. So I'm just going to cut the cheek down to match. And then bring it in on the nose, okay? That's going to then help to get rid of that line and also take the edge off of that cheek a bit. And now that nose, now I look at it, is rather fluffy still in places. So just, if you're finding that, just re-go over your lines on every end of it until it comes loose like that. Don't be tempted to stick your knife in and start wiggling it around and hope that that bit of wood comes out, because it will go wrong and it'll end in tears, either for your carving or for you. Okay, same on this side now. So there, I've gone down to the depth of that cut line. Take down the side of that nose, cut up to it very, oops, missed the camera, sorry. Took down the line of that nose there, and then just cutting up to it very slowly. It's a problem when you're used to whittling in your hand, right up close to you for these tiny details. I forget there's a camera there. Okay. That's better. Alright, so now, like I said at the beginning, it's just going around taking those edges off to help round him down. Okay, I'm going right around him again, taking it off. If you're using green wood, this would be the point as well to make sure that you've got all of that bark off, because quite often you can start with your carving, you're all good, life is good, you think you're doing all right, you turn it around and then you realise that it started to oxidize and the bark has started to almost come back, but there's a little bit of green still on there from the bark. So this is a good point to go back around your carving, take those bits off so that you're right on the actual wood. Again, something to be aware of when using proper, I say proper sticks, real nature, is splitting. So as the wood dries out and you've got the pith in the middle and that lovely little centre to it, which on this carving is right at the very tip there, you can't really see it too well, but you'll see it, that very centre of your wood, just there it is on here. That will cause that can cause the wood to just crack where the air is getting in and out of it. It's a risk. You can incorporate it into your carving, so have a think about where that crack is. Could it work for you? Could it be a scar on your carving? Or just mix up some sawdust from some old carvings, and some PVA glue, not PVA glue, sorry, wood glue. Well, PVA glue probably work too. Some wood glue, mix it all up, and then just pop it in the cracks it turns basically into wood again in the cracks, and you're all sorted there. All right. But make sure you do that when it's completely dry, because otherwise you might just end up with exactly the same problem again, where the crack carries on getting wider, and or a new crack forms and you have to do it all again. So just make sure it's completely dry first. Right. I'm quite happy with this guy. He looks good. I like him. So now I'm just going to take the gloves off because they stick to sandpaper, like Velcro or hook and loop, whatever you want to call it. And then all I'm going to do now with the sandpaper is I've just ripped it into strips. This is 120 grit sandpaper, just because that's what I've got. It doesn't really matter which one you use. Obviously, the thinner the sandpaper, or the higher the grit, the more of a nice gentle finish you're going to get. But if you're trying to take big bits off, it's going to take a little longer. So I folded that up so it's got a bit of stiffness to it, and that's going to help get into the cracks, like the eyes there and between the nose. It gives you a nice straight but rigid edge, so I can get right in there. I'm just giving it a gentle rub. You don't want to give it too much, just enough to take the edge off, give it the appearance of rounding, especially if you're carving as of an older gentleman. Kind of helps with a more aged look, having slight ridges there. Okay, so that's all I'm doing, is I'm just using that straight flat edge, getting in all the crooks and nooks and crannies, taking the edge off. When you feel that that's getting harder, like for me, I don't buy expensive sandpaper because I don't have the money, but when you feel it start to wear out a bit, just choose a new bit, refold it, get in there. This sandpaper I think came in a pack for like £3, and it so far lasted me for well over a year, the amount that actually came in it. Okay, so now I've got a much flatter part, much wider part there. I'm just going over the rest of the carving, just taking the edges off. I mean, I know I'm probably telling you to suck egg. Everyone knows how to sand. That's just my technique. Being gentle over any bits that may crack and break with too much pressure, such as this cap, so I'm supporting it with my other finger here. Yeah. Give them a bit of brush, get everything off. There you go, looking good. Just going to dunk him in a bit of water so you can see all of the details a bit better. There you go. So I've dunked him in a bit of water. That just seems to bring out the features a little bit. Helps to wash out any last bits of dust. But there's your little guy. All right. He has been, these ones have been an absolute pleasure to come up with. I've really enjoyed the process of coming up with these guys. I hope you guys have too. Please hit the like and share button. Drop me a comment. Tell me what you think of them. Send us a photo. See, let's get sharing everyone's different designs. They're great, fun little characters. Like I said, you could just pick up any old piece of stick or log and get going on them. They are great fun to do, and they're a great introduction to wood spirits. They're a great introduction to carving when someone has just started carving, just done a basic mushroom and is getting pretty fed up with doing the same thing over and over again for practice, and wants to know where they can take what they already know. But yeah, like I said, hit the like and subscribe button. Thanks for watching, everyone, and keep on carving. Cheers.